After only 38 days, Kwasi Kwarteng has been forced to step down as Chancellor of the Exchequer by PM Liz Truss, making him the second shortest-serving Chancellor in British history. In his departure letter, Kwarteng states, "You have asked me to stand aside as your Chancellor. I have accepted. I believe your vision is the right one." In a supposed attempt to calm the markets, not only has she sacked the Chancellor, but Liz has now also U-turned on corporation tax and has appointed Jeremy Hunt as the new Chancellor. In leaked WhatsApp messages, it now appears that there is a group within the Conservative Party who are looking for a Sunak-Mordaunt coalition and for Liz to also step down. I'm joined by Curtis Daly to discuss. Curtis, what's your take on all this? It's been a busy week in British politics.
When is it not? Politics moves so fast. Okay. Kwarteng, why was he sacked? It's completely obvious that she sacked him to just simply throw him under the bus.
Mm-hmm.
Now, prime ministers have a lot of control, obviously, on the direction of the economy.
Mm-hmm.
Boris Johnson, Boris Johnson had a lot of say when it came to furlough, for example, because Rishi Sunak is a neoliberal. If it was up to him, he wouldn't have probably done that. But it is an attempt to try and reset her leadership. And by sacking Kwarteng, she's trying to tell the people, all the bad things was his idea. Obviously, no one's going to fall for that. But I suppose what could have she done? Because if she'd continued with Kwarteng, then people, well, what's that going to achieve?
Yeah, it's a difficult one for her because it's continue with Kwarteng and people already have no trust or faith in you two as leaders. Sack him. Obviously, that's what she's done. Yeah, I mean, obviously, people aren't going to fall for it because as a prime minister, even if it was Kwarteng's idea, she still went with it. So
exactly, yeah.
She's not, even though she sacked him and she's trying to kind of put the blame on her, she has to take some of the flack. And she is, obviously, because...
Yeah, and I think that's the thing. She has no choice to do that. She was left limited options. So if I were her, I'd probably do the same.
Yeah.
But it's not going to convince many people because people are going to think, well, this is your leadership.
Yeah.
You chose to appoint Kwarteng.
Yeah.
And even if you try and pin the blame on him,
that's the
who's
thing,
that going to convince? But again, I don't think she had any other choice.
Either way, she's not showing good leadership skills because, like you said, she's the one who appointed him. She's the one whoever's idea it was. She's the one who announced it and ran with it. Well, I suppose it was a joint because did he do the announcement? But even still, it's a representation of her government. Now she's trying to throw him under the bus and say it was his idea, not mine. Well, that's also not good leadership because you can't make your own decisions. You've got to listen to everybody else. So, yeah, I guess either way, it's a lose-lose kind of situation for her.
Yeah.
So we've had 4 chancellors this year alone, 4 PMs in the last 6 years. And it kind of is going back to what I mentioned in last week's show about there just being no consistency at the minute and no decent leadership. And obviously we're in the middle of a cost of living crisis. This is when we need decisive, strong leadership. Surely now is the time for Labour to call for a general election.
You sound like Theresa May.
We need strong and stable.
Which is
maybe she had a point.
She had a point, now, but she helped. She was part of the chaos.
Yeah,
100%. Is it time for... Well, that's the thing. That's where the political zeitgeist is now. It's time for Labour. And do you know what? It's such an easy ride for the Labour Party. They haven't really had to do much. They've literally just waited for the government to collapse. And now they're just going to say, well, you might as well vote for us now. I suppose you don't need to do any more than that. If I was Keir Starmer and that's all I need to do to get elected now, I'd probably do the same.
But
if I was someone like Keir Starmer didn't have any fucking principles, then yeah, that's what I would do.
But do you think they actually will? Because obviously if by doing a vote of no confidence it would trigger a general election, you kind of would have thought they'd have done that by now.
It wouldn't trigger a general election.
Okay.
It would most likely lead to one.
Right.
What would trigger a general election?
So would she if they called a vote of no confidence?
Yeah.
What's the process? Does she then have to...
Boris Johnson had a vote of no confidence.
Yeah, but that was...
Theresa May had a vote of no confidence.
Wasn't that their own Tory MPs triggering it?
True, yeah. So it would
Whereas if the opposition trigger a vote or have a vote of no confidence in the current Prime Minister, because I don't know, what's the process?
I think there are many calls for Starmer to do the same for Boris Johnson.
Yeah.
the process of the thing is that I think it's such a pointless thing to do to trigger a vote of no confidence, because it'll be, I'm triggering a vote of no confidence in the government. Obviously, you then have to get Tory MPs
To agree with you.
to agree with them.
Right.
Now, even if they absolutely hate what Truss is doing to their own party,
Well,
they're not going to vote yes, because that could mean
they know that it's going to throw it to Labour.
Well, yeah, because they're like, I'm not going to be part of a vote in which it could wipe out the Conservative Party for Labour to win. So all that would probably do is actually make Labour look bad, because they'll try and call a vote of no confidence. It will lose, and then there'll be obviously media. Well, the message in the media will be it's backfired. It would, and that's not calamitous or anything, but it's pointless to do that. It's better just to say we want a general election.
Yeah. Is it likely then, do you think, that the Tories will, obviously, like I said in the intro, there is a small rebel group, they're being labelled as, who want Sunak now as PM with Mordaunt as Chancellor, I think. I mean, do you think that's likely to happen? That would look, I mean, it'd be difficult to see how it could get much worse for the Tories, but surely another vote of no confidence and another leadership election in the matter of months would be catastrophic.
That's the thing, I don't know, because they could do the same thing of what they've done for the last couple of years, which is calling a vote of no confidence into Liz Truss. And by the way, I'm bored of it. We're all bored of that. Are they going to do that again? I don't know. Because most of the time, even there's a lot of opposition to the current Prime Minister, people just fall in line. Like when Boris Johnson was looking really bad, they called a vote of no confidence and he won it. Obviously, the significance of the amount of MPs that had no confidence in him, you don't need to win it to be replaced. Like Thatcher had it, she won it, she got replaced. I suppose that could be a strategy, but I don't know. I mean, to be fair though, I don't think the Conservatives really care about how they look at the moment. They just want, the whole point of the Tory party is to stay in power, and they'll do anything to do it. That's what they're ruthless with their leaders. So I suppose they would do that. They didn't really care how it looks, because if they can get rid of Truss and put someone who's a bit more, who appeals more to the electorate, they would. But I don't know. It's hard to call, isn't it?
Do you agree that we maybe need to give her a bit more of a chance? There was that clip of Owen Jones on Jeremy Vine where he was having a very heated, well, it's more heated from her end. It was a caller, wasn't it? Yeah. There was a caller on basically saying, you need to give her a chance. You're not even give her a chance. And he obviously shut down why he's not prepared to give her a chance because of all the shit she's done in literally just over a month. Would you agree with that?
Right. This is the point I really want to make, and it might not be clear to many people, but it's really important. Why should we give Liz Truss a chance? Okay, so no matter how much more time we give her, I don't think she'll do a better job. Why? Why was the policies of cutting taxes for the rich during the cost of living crisis, why did she do that? Because that is her ideology, okay? She couldn't get away with it this time, but she will try again. So we need to look at this not in a sense of she made a couple of mistakes, give her time to get better at the job. That's not the point, okay? It's what she's tried to push through is the point. And since that is ideological, okay, she's a Thatcherite, like most of the Tory party are, she's just going to try and do it again, and you're probably going to get the same results or far worse. So I don't understand when people say we need to give her a chance. Also, all right, she hasn't been Prime Minister for very long, but given all that's happened in such a short amount of time, do you not think given her a longer time, she's just going to do far worse?
Yeah, true.
This isn't about giving people a chance. This is recognising the policies that she supports in her own head and the policies of her government support are calamitous for this country. It's just that she's been called out on it.
Yeah, it's like it's because of the timing, because we're in a cost of living crisis. That's why she's been called out on it by so many people. If we weren't in a cost of living crisis, it probably wouldn't have got much backlash.
See that's a nail. That's a hammer. Bang. Because if we weren't in a cost of living crisis, she would be able to get away with that.
Yeah.
The media will be like, oh, whatever. Because that's what's happened with successive governments. That's what's happened with Thatcher. But because we are in a cost of living crisis and they are so out of touch that they think their right-wing, pro-business, pro-rich policies can still get through.
Yeah.
No, people are waking up to that now. So It's not about giving her a chance. She's just going to pursue the same thing for the rest of the government because that's what she believes in.
What's your opinion then on Jeremy Hunt as the new Chancellor? How do you think he's going to take to the role?
For centrist circles who seem to think that Jeremy Hunt is like the good Tory because he has more etiquette about him, I suppose. He appears more as a statesman, more as a typical politician. What you also need to recognise that one of his heroes was Margaret Thatcher. Okay, Margaret Thatcher didn't represent an extreme wing of the Conservative Party. She represented the purest form of conservatism.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. So most of the Conservatives, if not all of them, subscribe to that ideology. Now, some are willing to push further than others, fine. But if that's Jeremy Hunt's one of his heroes, then he's not going to do anything different than Kwarteng or any other Chancellor. It's the same with Liz Truss. If you give her longer, she's not going to change tack unless she's forced to, which is why she's reversed in the corporation tax cuts, but she'll try again. Same with Jeremy Hunt. They have the same ideology, so he will be a disaster. Now, specifically for Hunt, he will eviscerate our public services, as he did with the NHS. What is worth noting that he co-authored a book, or wrote a book, in which he wanted to denationalise the NHS, called for privatisation of it. We know what happened in the past when he was health secretary. The NHS was on its knees.
That's the thing that's really concerning, is that he wrote that book, but he was health secretary for so long. He's the longest serving health secretary we've had in this country. Yet he was quite open about the fact that he wants to denationalise it.
Well, I wouldn't say he was open. He was still quite. It was stealth. He would say all the bullshit.
He wrote a book. He wrote a book about it. That's being fairly open.
He didn't write the book during his time as health secretary. He wrote it like quite a long time ago, and a lot of the Conservatives...
Then that's even more worrying that he was then given that role.
But that's what the Conservatives want to do.
That's his overall kind of view on the NHS. So, and there's that kind of misconception that if he was in the role for a long time, then that meant he must have done a good job. He didn't do a good job.
No.
Like, there was lots of awful things that happened in the NHS during that time, and it's probably a lot of the reason why the NHS is in such turmoil now is because he was...
I would actually disagree, and this might sound a bit controversial, but I will explain. He actually didn't do a bad job. He did a really good job. The problem is, with a lot of these politicians, it's not their competence, it's their ideology. So Hunt, his purpose was to, because he supports privatisation, as with all the Tory party, is to create a crisis, especially the NHS. So the fact that the NHS was in a huge crisis under his tenure, that was by design. So you can't really say he did a bad job. He did a really good job.
That's what he set out to do.
That's what he set out to do. And that's what a lot of the Conservatives will do, which I suppose is more worrying.
Interesting.